All right, Rob Brown here with you on this Tuesday morning. Wow, what a day we had yesterday here in Atlanta at SEC Media Days. I just got to say, we are joined by an all-star lineup: Jimmy Hodge, Frank Duffy, Doug Dean, AU Dose. Also, Yancey Porter will be joining us here later in the show, as well as in the second hour, we'll be joined by Harold Grader. I'm going to tell you, Harold's a friend of mine from Memphis, the Liberty Bowl, and just getting that perspective of him watching and talking to every coach, and I think he knows everybody here, people from the Fiesta Bowl and all, what's going on, a lot of things that happening in college football. And guys, this morning, looking out the window here at the Omni here, where everything's going on, just the mad. It's like the running of the bulls in Pamplona, Spain. All these Alabama fans, adults, children, big people, folks with big bellies, and of all shapes and sizes. Everyone in Whoville running toward the Omni to see the Sabinator and throw boxes of Tide detergent at his feet as he comes by. This is what I love about college football. People that are that damn passionate that will come over here just to be a part of this. And guys, it is absolutely just an incredible event. We're going to talk about it a lot today. And I got to tell you, yesterday we had first up on the podium, Brian Kelly from LSU, and then Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss, and Eli Drinkowitz. I like that is a guy that he's just one of those guys you can't help but like, and he knows he's got his work cut out at Missouri. But hey, we're with you 8 to 10 a.m. Central, as we are every Monday through Saturday. And here he comes down the hall, folks, Nick Saban. And yeah, and it's really, I'm gonna tell you what, this event is just, it's massive. You know, I sat with guys yesterday out on the main stage, Olin Buchanan, our good friend who's on every week from TexAgs.com, and I got to meet him in person, and Kirk Bowles of the Austin American Statesman. And, you know, I'm going to tell you what, this is just an incredible event. You've got to give a thumbs up to the Southeastern Conference, all the people behind the scenes, and at the Chick-fil-A Hall of Fame, Gary Stokin, and so many great people. I met Gary Peterson last night, who's on the board of the College Football Hall of Fame. I'll just say this: Atlanta rolls out the red carpet, and let's roll out the red carpet now and get thoughts. Jimmy and Frank and Doug. Doug, I know you want to give some insight about what went on yesterday, and I'm looking forward to being back out after the show onto the floor. But man, this is what it's all about, and we're honored to be here.
Good morning, Vietnam, and I hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah.
I thought Atlanta, you know, of course, I'm going to be biased toward the Magic City. What a goofy name the football capital of the South used to be. But Atlanta's a great spot for something this big, and I don't miss it. You know, the throngs of Crimson Tiders flocking to the Winfrey at the Gallery. What a spectacle.
Yeah,
but that's what, when you're on top of the world like Coach Saban, hey, you're going to get that kind of fan reaction. More power to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so I don't know if I can breathe some life into a media days, but for my money, I'm reminded. I think it was the great Beebs Stallings, Coach Stallings. I always liked Stallings, except when we lost to him, like in '94 after nearly running the table. But I think he said, someone was saying, well, you know, y'all just got Appy State or some, you know, lesser program this week, and that's not a very big game. And Coach Stallings said, you know, if you don't think Appy State is a big game, just go out and lose it. And that's what the pressers remind me of, particularly for a guy who's, you know, I don't disagree with Feinbaum, who said Brian Kelly, your man, Duff, your man.
There you go.
Is a top five, arguably a top five resume head football coach. He's about to put that to the test, isn't he, down here in the South? But I thought I got to have a little fun with you, Duff. He had not, and I didn't realize this, but when you're at Notre Dame, you don't go to media days every year. so he was a little rusty out of the gate. And I likened it for the first few seconds to a hostage video, Duffy. Yes, I really do love the Al Qaeda, and I love the community and the food in Baton
Was he
Rouge.
holding? Hey, was he holding up the Atlanta Journal Constitution with yesterday's date on it?
The people
Yeah.
here in Baghdad are treating me well.
Yes,
I'm having a
I
good
really
time.
Baghdad Bob, right?
Yeah,
No, but
that's right.
in all sincerity, I thought Kelly did what you would want. He did not lose to Appy State in the presser. If you
Yeah.
stick with that metaphor, I thought he's a good looking guy, looks like a CEO, and I think he did nothing to disprove, Frank Duffy, your point that you have an adult in the room now. You agree?
I totally agree. And there was a nice anecdote yesterday. I was driving back from an appointment, and I was listening to my buddies Matt and Chuck on 680 The Fan here in Atlanta, and they were interviewing Kelly when he stopped by their place during the what he called the car wash. Though he said it's really not a car wash. This is y'all take your press serious here in the SEC. And when he was talking with Matt, of course, Matt was trying to get good radio out of him. And at every turn, Kelly was saying the right answer. In fact, the answer that I was hoping he was going to say, right? And then when the interview ended, Matt said, "Come on, coach, you really didn't give me anything to get the other guys with. I'm going to have to make something up." And all I said was, "Thank you, Lord," because after two of our last coaches being conference punchlines, it is so refreshing to have someone that answers it the right way, cautiously steps through the landmines. No, I thought that anecdote of me sitting there listening to that and having Matt say, "I need something from you," when in the last, going back to 2005, there was soundbite after soundbite after soundbite, and all of it kind of, was almost cartoonish. So I'm very happy with the way that Coach Kelly came off. In fact, I'll tell you, and again, I'm not drawing conclusions to Darth Saban, that we just gave the Emperor's March to when he was walking down the hall when Rob said it. But I will tell you, it really reminds me of 2000, the summer of 2000, when Coach Saban came to talk to us, the LSU Atlanta Alumni Association, the first time that any coach had ever come to talk to us in Atlanta, and the comments that he was making, the sense that he was making, the maturity that he was putting across. Again, after Curly Hallman and Jerry DiNardo, it was so refreshing. So I'm really finding some parallels in the time leading up to that first LSU game. So I really am. I'm taking it as a very big positive.
You're not excited, are you? Hey, look,
I'm ready to go, baby. I'm ready to go.
I love it, and I'm gonna bring both barrels at Harsin Thursday. I'm not gonna pull any punches if he's dry and boring. And Lane Kiffin was anything but boring. We'll get to Kiff in a minute. But sticking with Brian Kelly, and by the way, what the point here, because I'm a trained professional at this, so are all three of you guys, is to separate signal from noise. And so you have to listen carefully. And let me give you what the signal was in Brian Kelly, the thing that is more than the usual coach speak presser stuff. And you did, like you said, the goal is just to not have a gap at a pressure like that, especially a first year coach who's trying to win over his fan base, continue to get his share of love from the media, and Kelly's getting that deservedly. But here was the signal, brothers. And he said it sort of under his breath, but he talked about, we got here and we're having to fill some holes on the roster. And I quote, and we discovered there were some habits that had clearly slipped a little bit. Did you hear that now?
Yeah, no doubt.
And so, that's tricky for a coach. You can interpret a line like that as he's trying to lower the bar for himself year one, so fans will go easy on him. But I think, or he's telling the truth, and it's maybe a little of both, lower expectations. So I think you could see, and I'm not trying to drag Kelly down with Brian Harsin, if you will, from last year, but it wouldn't be the most shocking thing if there are a couple of games, as talented as LSU is, a couple of games that they come up short in because it takes more than 3 months to eradicate bad habits.
Yeah. Well, hey, Nick Saban lost the UAB his first year.
Lamo,
we're cool. We're cool with that. I think you're right. I think that was really probably 75% accurate and 25%, hopeful exposition so that he doesn't catch a lot of hell. But no, the thing that I heard from the post Ed Ogeron days was the fact that they took off the prize. That the little things were not getting done. The corners were being cut. There was not extra time spent at the facility. In fact, going back to the UCLA, right before the UCLA opener, there was very little time being spent at the facility, especially by the head coach. Again, these are all things that I've heard from people that are pretty close to the program. So the fact that he would come in and say that does not surprise me at all. I think he's being honest in that assessment. And yeah, I don't think it hurts to remind people that, hey, when I got here, you guys were playing a bowl game with, a wide receiver running the single wing at quarterback, and you had over 30 of your players missing. So LSU fans, if we have very lofty expectations that comes with winning 3 national championships.
You guys are smart though.
But we are. I do like to think that we are grounded in reality to that point. I think he's going to have a honeymoon period of at least 3 to 4 years. So he's got time. Look, I'm just happy with whatever he said, Doug. He didn't say it in a Southern accent. That was my big takeaway.
I halfway wish he had, and I know I want to get Rob. We got to get Jimmy in here. We're priming the pump for you, Jimmy. The last thing I thought it was smart, and it came across very authentically to me, unlike that in the basketball arena when he first arrived. But which is forgivable. Good God,
yeah,
we don't have enough. We don't have enough content that we have to overinflate stuff like that. But then he stepped forward and said, if you haven't had fried oysters, that'll get your cholesterol up. And the thing about LSU people, they love football, they love family, and they love food. That fits me well. And he said, so maybe I should have been in the South all along. And the beautiful thing about that is one of the big questions was, how does a coach like that from another part of the region of the country, how does he adapt to such a unique and beautiful culture like Baton Rouge?
Kick Alabama's ass once in November, and you can have all the oysters you want, my man.
Yeah, I was going to say, all this speech is great stuff, but you know what's really going to matter to people? Let me tell you what's really going to, you better buckle up here. It's not going to matter what he said yesterday. What will matter is when Brian Kelly has to make a decision. He's in Jordan-Hare at night. It's 9 p.m. He's got 2 timeouts left. He uses 1 timeout. There's 3:20 on the clock in Jordan-Hare, which Jimmy says it has all kinds of voodoo. I thought only Baton Rouge had that. And he's got a 4th and 1 at the Auburn 45. Do you punt to back Auburn up, or do you go on 4th down when you're down 34-31? That's when it will matter.
Well, from what I can remember of being a fan of Lesticle Miles, all I can tell you is he's got about 5 or 6 mulligans in his bag.
Amen.
Hey,
Jimmy, get on in here, as they say.
Yeah, Jimmy, I'm going to ask Jimmy something. I'll tell you right now, Jimmy, you can read people. You can read coaches. And I thought Brian Kelly, I was right up there, asking him questions and all those players. But I thought he seemed very comfortable. And I think he's like a smart person that walks in a room. He's sizing it up to see who he needs to be, watching. But I'm with you, Jimmy. And I was talking to the LSU press corps, and God, there's a lot of them up here. I think he's destined for a great career. And he said, hey, this is my last stop. I'm going to make it. I'm going to go out big. Jimmy?
Yeah, 10 years, $100 million. I hope it's his last stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For LSU's sake.
Yeah, but one thing I noticed, though, and he was very smooth, but he did make one gaffe, but nobody noticed it. He referred to Sankey as Coach Sankey, and instead of Commissioner Sankey, and nobody even mentioned a word about it. But I thought, that was what you do in Texas. Like if you're in let's say, a setting where there's coaches involved or just a lot of people that follow the sport, everybody refers to each other as coach, even though if they've never met you before, you know. And I thought he was going to follow up by saying, "Hey, did I just call Commissioner Sankey coach?" Well, we can. I thought he might say something like, "Well, he really should be referred to as Coach Sankey because he's always communicating with coaches, not only in football, but in all sports." But anyway, he just, he just went right along. But I was surprised when Gilbo asked him about what he thought about Notre Dame being able to adapt to joining a conference if they chose to, or what he thought they might do if they were going to stay independent and so forth. And he said, well, and correctly, I was surprised by Gilbo's question. Kelly was too. He said, well, to be truthful, it hasn't been high on my priority list, you know. And then he goes, to be truthful, the last 2 weeks, what has been high on my priority list was trying to get rid of my slice, which has been unsuccessful. So, he handled everything just really well, and he just gives you that impression of somebody that really realizes he's in a great situation and he doesn't have really any restrictions at all.
Hey,
Rob, can we move to the great Lane Kiffin?
Yeah, I wanted to say something funny about that,
Sure.
Jimmy. You're right, and a lot of times people. I remember the old Massachusetts politician Tip O'Neill used to say he couldn't remember anything, but every time he'd see you, he'd say, "How's your dad's back?" He just or calling him coach or whatever. It's just Tip O'Neill was a good Irish Catholic. He liked to drink, and that's a good thing. How's your dad's back? All right, it's better. He's been drinking though, and but I got to say this, man. I like Brian Kelly. And Doug, we're going to be kind of blending in. We got Maury Gaston calling in for about a minute and a half to a couple of minutes from ASIPCO. They're one of our sponsors that make media days possible. Thanks to them and Jay Evers, the great folks at Miss Rubens Rubs, and all of our sponsors, especially those two for what they have done above and beyond the call of duty this week. We're so grateful. But kind of, if you can, stay over because then Yancey Porter's going to be on with us. Yancey's the man. I mean, Yancey, the other night, I texted him. He goes, "I can't hear you." I'm like, "What?" I go, "I can't hear you." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I'm in Red Rocks at a concert." I'm like, forget about it. So
sounded like Sergeant Carter there.
Yeah, Red Rocks, Colorado. I'm sure there was lots of praying going on out there. But anyway, Doug, all of y'all, I want to say something too about Dan Matthews, Chuck Oliver, and Chernoff. I went up there and I saw them. Those guys were working like, the band. I mean, remember the band with Levon Helm, that hard. It was incredible yesterday. And talk about just genuinely super nice guys. That I got to give them credit. And Chuck Oliver is just nonstop. And there's so much activity here, but I just wanted to get that in because you mentioned them.
Yeah, those are my boys, man.
And,
they're great guys.
Well, and they're also incredibly what they've done with us, allowing us to be on 680 The Fans Podcast Park. So I just wanted to get that out there and say thank you. But Doug,
I'm a fan of those guys.
I love it what they do.
There's a notion of we spent the part of the segment talking about how avoiding the big gaffe, and even if these coaches were to have a gaffe, there's a concept in marketing and PR that all PR is good. I'm not so sure about that. You can mess yourself up and you can tarnish the brand. The brand sometimes is a persona like a head coach, which, let's face it, in these programs marketing what they're all about, you can't leave the head coach's persona out or it suffers. So I was looking at Kiffin, and goodness knows he's had well-documented peccadillos over the years. But as I listened to him, he's awfully sedate, or he was yesterday, in his style. But then you look at, speaking of signal and noise, my God, he brings a lot of firepower with, high impact language to the table for all of us who follow SEC football so closely. I'm a Kiffin fan, for example. Goodness. Yeah, the rules are what they are. He's responding to a question about NIL. Teams have different salary caps. Now, he said the quiet part out loud there, didn't he? Until the rules change, people without those salary caps will have to find a way around it. And he goes on to say, what do you do if you've got boosters out there deciding who they want to pay to come play? And it brings a whole nother set of problems. Is the booster going to tell you who to play? And when they don't play, how's that going to work? It's amazing how he threw some left jabs and uppercuts. And he basically was talking about what concerns me absolutely the most. I'll probably sound like a whiny Auburn fan, but there are other schools that Saban even I bet will take this up this morning. And that is, how is all this crap ensuring a fairly level playing field? Or are we going to be like baseball has with an outrageous, payrolls where you've got the Dodgers with $260.9 million payroll this year and Baltimore down in the Valley at $30.2 million.
Whoa. Well, the Braves are what, 147 million, Frank?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Billy Roberts, one of my Bravesologists. I mean, there aren't Braves fans. I call them Bravesologists because they know everything. In Billy's mind, that's 100 million less than the Dodgers. Frank, I'll tell you one thing about Lane Kiffin. I was up front, sitting up there about 3 rows from the stage, and he got up there and he had that. I don't know if y'all saw him on TV, but he said, I knew it wouldn't be long, but the first question already about Nick Saban. But anyway, go ahead. And he's funny about it and self-deprecating about it. But you can't
Braves are 179, by the way, Rob.
Okay, so I was just about to say that they actually went up because you know what it was? It's all the revenue that's coming from the Battery. But their footprint, all of those places that are bringing in revenue, the Braves have goosed their payroll up. They really have.
I'll tell you right now, folks, that Battery as a venue.
Incredible,
guys. It's incredible. Jimmy, you've been there now. Frank, you're a regular there. Doug, if you hadn't, do it. But you know who built the whole stadium there? It's Brassfield Gorey. Hang on. Let's get joined by Maury Gaston here. And Maury's with us right now. And I'm going to tell you what, we wouldn't be here without our sponsors. And Maury, we're really glad to have American Ductile Iron Pipe and Spiral Weld as a sponsor. It's not a technical conference like you speak at a lot of times, but what do you want the general public to know about iron and steel pipe?
Hey, good morning, Rob and Doug and your entire lineup there. Thank you. We're thrilled to be here. We're thrilled to support collegiate athletics, the SEC, and Sidelines. But in response to your question, Rob, I'd want the public to know that iron pipe is a modern product with a century-long proven record of performance.
Let me ask you this. How can both of those be true, Maury? Because a modern product with century-long record of performance in today's world, you don't see that very often.
No, you sure don't. Iron pipe's been in continuous service more than 100 years in more than 600 cities across the country. I don't mean that city's been using iron pipe 100 years. I mean, the pipe they put in 100 years ago is still delivering fresh, clean water. And yet today's modern ductile iron is stronger and tougher, made with the most advanced technology, including robotics, and utilizes exceptional joint technology capable of surviving earthquakes and hurricanes. Today, in our company, compared to 40 years ago when I started, we're producing 4 times the tonnage with 1/2 the number of headcount. That's an 8-fold increase in productivity.
All right, here's a question you got to ask about. What about corrosion with all that pipe?
Well, that's a fair question. It's a massive misperception that the public have. There's a reason that iron spikes are used in surveying, because iron spikes last. And if your soils are aggressive, use a zinc coating on the pipe and V-Bio enhanced encasement. Rob, I recently presented at a conference a study we did in the Everglades. That's the most aggressive soils in North America. Our specimen pipe were monitored, and the projected lifespan, get this, 1,666 years. You can go to American-USA.com, visit our news page, place Everglades in the search box, and you'll find the study.
Maury, that's powerful stuff. How can people follow your great company located in Birmingham, Alabama?
Sure, Rob, and thank you again for having us on. You can follow us on Twitter at News at American. That's News AT American. We're also on LinkedIn, of course, American Cast Iron Pipe Company. And I'm on LinkedIn, and my Twitter is Maury D. Gaston. You'll see a lot about iron pipe on those pages.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, clean drinking water, I'll take it any day. And we are damn proud to have y'all as a sponsor. We're honored to. So I look forward to our conversation again tomorrow. Thank you so much.
You bet, Rob. Thank you.
All right. I'll tell you one thing, man. You got to love your sponsors, your investors. And this is so much fun, folks, being over here in Atlanta. Y'all, the synergy. There's over 1,000 members of the media here. Just to throw that in, and the effort, the behind the scenes effort, Doug, Jimmy, Frank. I mean, Frank, get down here with us, today if you can. The College Hall of Fame, folks. No matter what you do, before you take your kids to Disney World, you need to stop in Atlanta, go to the College Football Hall of Fame. You can't find a more incredible place for the history of college football. And one thing that's cool is they are constantly updating it. So it really never changes. And Nick Saban, when he walked in there just now, there's a lot of Alabama stuff there. There's a lot of SEC stuff there. And there are a lot of reasons why. But, bottom line is, college football is still the greatest game ever, and we're about to start talking about it again, about why we're going to keep it that way. Doug?
Yeah, that was great to hear from Maury, and what a fine man and hell of an engineer from all I understand. Let's go to the person with the most gravitas. That's the word of the day. Obviously, is Sankey. Not that the other head coaches aren't great thinkers, but Sankey, you can tell he's been around the block a little and really knows the innovations in athletics and business. And it allows me to tolerate the fact that you can't miss that he's a New Yorker, right?
That's right. Upstate New York.
But a couple of haymakers I thought Sankey threw that landed and I really resonated with me. I was really happy to hear him tout the fact that so far in SEC expansion, we have remained contiguous, important word. I, for one, would rather be able to still call it the South or the Southeast and that be legitimate as opposed to arguably what the Big Ten is entertaining or doing. And the other haymaker I thought that Sankey landed, and there were several, but he talked about how it's been proposed that someone proposed an 8-team playoff with no automatic bids. And he said, I'll have that conversation. I can tell he wasn't crazy about it. And Jimmy's talked a lot about that. But he said moving to 8 teams with 6 auto bids is unwise. And I thought he really had done his homework because he went all the way back to 2014. And he said, if we had done that in 14, you'd have to replace the 8th best team with the 20th best team. And he said, I don't think our credibility can survive that. So I thought those were brilliant points, and they were shots without question at some of our rival conferences.
Jimmy, let me ask you this. Along the line of what Doug just said, right now we're at 16, and we're hearing about all these other conferences, what they're going to do. What's been your takeaway so far? Pete Thamel was on this morning with Peter Burns and Chris Doering talking about, that potential story that came out about the Pac-12 and the Big 12 merging. That's off for right now. But does that mean that story won't be back up on the headlines in a day or two?
I don't know. I mean, I think anything and everything is being discussed, and it just popped up this morning. Surprise, surprise, that the Pac-12 and the ACC have ended their discussions on some kind of mini merger, or I don't know what exactly they were trying to pull off, but they had been discussing the matter for 2 weeks and then just decided they weren't going to be able to do it because those are 2 conferences right now that I think are in serious trouble because of their locations. They're on each coast. And you seem to be limiting yourself. It's just really hard to add schools that aren't already taken that are big brands and are located in big markets. And with the ACC, I mean, you're just trying to figure out a way with that contract, the TV contract, you're locked into until 2036, which is paying schools a pittance compared to what each school in the SEC and Big Ten is going to be receiving under their future contracts, which will be signed within the next year or so. That they're just trying to figure out a way to keep Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and North Carolina. And I guess they thought by maybe trying to merge or have intersectional games with the likes of Oregon, Washington, Stanford, they might be able to cobble something up. But I mean, those two conferences, when it comes to the Pac-12, if Washington and Oregon go, the Pac-12 is done. I mean, they might keep the name and try to add maybe San Diego State, Boise State, or some other Mountain West schools. But, I mean, their options are just about gone as far as having large markets and brand names. So, again, I think the Big 12 has been the most impressive in the last 12 months, almost to the day of the Texas-Oklahoma announcement that they had requested membership into the SEC, because they moved swiftly and really came up with some good teams that are kind of on the move right now as far as their success goes, not to mention their big markets, like UCF, Houston, BYU has a worldwide following. Cincinnati's had great success, and now they're looking to add Arizona State. So I think the Big 12 is in a great position compared to where they were a year ago.
Yeah. Jimmy, everybody.
After Texas and Oklahoma announced they were leaving.
Yeah, hold these thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. Yancey Porter's on with us right now. Doug Dean, stay with us if you can. Frank Duffy.
I can say a few minutes.
Yeah, Jimmy Hodge, Yancey Porter. We're going to talk about Lane Kiffin. And I tell you one thing, there's a lot to talk about, and we're going to do it after this quick commercial break on Sidelines on this Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. God bless America. God love the SEC.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown back here with you in the second segment. Again, joined by Jimmy Hodge, Doug Dean, Frank Duffy. Now, Yancey Porter joins us, and I tell you one thing, man. Red Rocks, a great concert, some cold beer, and whatever else is floating around in the air out there. Red Rocks, Colorado. I'll just leave it at that. And Yancey Porter, one of the great minds we have, a great, proud son of the great state of Mississippi. It isn't Mississippi, it's Mississippi, in case you don't know how to pronounce it. But Yancey,
baseball national champions, Rob.
The center of the universe of college baseball, the state of Mississippi, and the national champion, Ole Miss Rebels. And Man, I want to get Elko on this show, but we'll work on that later. But Yancey, as always, thanks for taking time. Just like Jimmy is here every day, and then Frank and Doug. But thanks for taking time out of your Tuesday morning to join us. And your thoughts about Lane Kiffin. I tell you what, you don't realize how tall that guy is, and he's in great physical shape. But he's becoming sort of the dry, self-deprecating version of Steve Spurrier at media days. You ask him a question, he's going to give you an honest answer.
And the one guy that'll tell the emperor he ain't wearing no clothes.
Yeah, he's not afraid. But Yancey, we're ready to hear what you got to say. We're all going to be E.F. Hutton customers from the 70s.
Yeah, it's different because if you see Lane around town or anywhere else, he is a man of very, very few words. He doesn't. He's got a very tight knit group that he's very kind of boxed in, so to speak. He's not out saying a whole lot. So the media, it looks like he's a very outgoing and boisterous guy, but the real life Lane, you got to pry words out of his mouth. So it is kind of interesting, the dynamic, the persona he has on Twitter and at SEC Media Days versus the persona he has 99.99% of the time. So
when that red light comes on.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a different lane for sure.
Yeah.
And Yancey, Doug Dean, if I can put a question to you, again, congrats to Ole Miss on the incredible baseball run in Omaha. But I thought it was cool of Kiffin and helpful just to understand what makes him tick. That I think a female reporter asked him about how recruiting has changed, and you have all these shenanigans and Rolls Royces and the photo op. And he said, it's not that I think that's the ideal way this should all work, but you have to coach and make moves in the world we live in, not the world you wish we lived. Those are my words. But so Kiffin, he's not necessarily this goofball like some would want to portray him. That he just understands marketing, social media, and what engages these young athletes and fans.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, look, Lane. What makes Lane tick is his intelligence. He's a little bit smarter than everyone else, to put it bluntly. He could have been a great scientist, a great accountant, a lawyer. He's very highly intelligent, and he knows exactly what makes recruits tick. That's not Lane. Like I said, Lane, the last one, if Lane is around on the square, he's got a hoodie on. He doesn't want to be seen. He's a different way in real life than what he comes out in the media. And the same goes with recruiting. That's not really who he is with the 4As and stuff like that. He just, he knows what makes recruits tick, the hot button with each recruit. And that's the way he goes about business.
And if Harsin doesn't make it at Auburn, is it wrong of me to look forward to a Kiffin saying, I will only leave Oxford in a pine box?
We've never heard that before, Yancey.
Heard that before.
Sorry about that, Yancey.
I also heard Miss Terry likes Baton Rouge, but I won't go there.
God.
Well, if Lane goes somewhere the next time, nothing against Auburn. It's a great university, but he's going to go somewhere on the water. And I don't mean Sardis or Lake Martin or something like that. I'm talking about he's going to go somewhere that is, we've got a big ocean where he can get his boat and go deep sea fishing every day.
Yeah.
And that's just, I see his next move really the NFL, where he doesn't have to deal with recruiting and the NILs and transfer portals and talking alumni at meetings and doing everything but coaching. He likes to coach. I think he's an NFL coach one day. He's been there. He didn't have maybe 13 games of the season. So, but I always thought Saban would go back there too and try to prove to himself he can make it on that level, and he hadn't done it either. So
Who's to say he couldn't end up succeeding the great Nick Saban?
He's already come out and said that. He said the coach that comes after Nick Saban doesn't have much brains in them.
I got you.
You can't win. He's probably talked about that. If you can win national. You can win 3 out of 5 national championships. And those 2 years you get,
No kidding.
they
Yeah.
want to get rid of you, but you can't follow a legend.
And
like
talk
that.
about the genius you've mentioned. Kiffin talked about with the transfer portal. It was hard enough as it was, and then got doubled down. But now the player would leave you. I'm not getting to play enough, so I'm leaving. Now I'm playing really well, but I'm leaving for more money, as in NIL.
Yeah, I think that's the aspect that really worries Lane there. He's had so much success in the portal because, look, I mean, some staffs like to recruit 80% of the time. I've seen them at Ole Miss. That would be like an Orgeron or Freeze, and then game plan the other 20%. Lane's pretty much the other way around. He likes to develop and game plan and really hone in on within the program about 70-80% of the time, and then recruit the other 20% of the time. He's not one that's going to pat you on your back and tell you how great you are for 4 years all the way through high school. Whereas the portal, they've been through the recruitment before. They don't need to be patted on the back and tell how great they are for 4 years, and your high school coach and your 7-on-7 coach and your aunt and uncle and everybody else. They're there in the portal after the portal. It's all business, right? That's the second time around. They're trying to get it right and get to the NFL, and that's where Lane comes into a part. That's why he's had so much success with the portal, because all of the shenanigans are done and it's time for business, and that's what Lane is all about. He's all about business. So I'm sure it is a little scary for him that he could lose players when they're producing and are happy there at the school and they're leaving for no other reason but money. But we really haven't seen that happen yet. That's a fear factor that the media talks about a lot. That is not reality to this point. Has there been a player or two that left schools that have been very successful because of money? I'm sure there have, but we haven't seen a large percentage of that happen yet. I say yet because we don't know where this is going.
I hope Lane stays at Ole Miss a long while. He's a hell of a lot of fun.
You know what he said yesterday? I thought that was really neat. He made a comment. He said, "Look, I coached, worked for Pete Carroll for a few years." He said something Pete Carroll told me was, "Do things that everybody's done, but do them better than anyone's ever done them, and everything you do,
That's right.
and do it with enthusiasm and passion and energy." And obviously, I mean, I would like to think if I was a football coach, I'd be like Pete Carroll, that fired up and that excited. But Lane Kiffin, another takeaway from his appearance at Media Days yesterday is, Yancey, you're right. Now, I don't know, if you see him at the Beacon or over there at the Chevron getting chicken on a stick, he'll be low key. That it's funny. He's an introvert in reality compared to what but you mentioned about his intelligence level, and it's not just his football IQ. He's very cerebral, and when he's looking at someone, I watched it yesterday in Media Days. He looks at him, and he's looking right at him. He's not, bouncing all over the room, and he's processing what they're asking, and he gives legit answers. I think he thinks them through, but his mind works quickly. And when recruits are talking to him, all they got to do is look at his resume, 14, 15, 16 at Alabama. And I know people like to talk about him and Nick Saban, this and that. Nobody knows. I think he learned, and he always will value and treasure the time that he had with Nick Saban in Alabama, because he learned an awful lot, and they played for the national championship 2 of his 3 years there. But he took Nick Saban and Alabama into the modern era of the hurry-up, no-huddle offenses. And if you look at the 5 years since he left, Alabama scores on average 14 points per game more than they did 6 and 7 years ago. So if you want to beat Alabama now, you better be scoring over 45 points.
I don't know. I personally don't know the man, but I think he relishes that sparring back and forth with Saban. I think he enjoys it.
It keeps you in the headlines, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I think he enjoys it.
Yeah.
Nah, he enjoys it all. Look, I mean, you got to remember now, Lane was brought up by Monty Kiffin. I mean, so he's been nurtured in a football environment since the time
Exactly.
he's been born. And Lane's two biggest attributes is one, being able to think quickly on his feet, just like he mentioned during ball games, making adjustments, game planning. I think really that is his number one, and then number two is evaluation. He's a great evaluator of talent. Deciding who to bring into his program. We really saw that probably at its best at FAU when you're not able to recruit at that kind of a high level and you're going up against other G5 schools. But he was able to out evaluate people, and that's why they had so much success there. So Lane, he's an elite coach. He's a hell of a coach. He's one of the top 10 coaches in college football. There's no question about that. I think one day his ultimate destiny is the NFL, but he seems to really have settled in at Ole Miss. I think the first 2+ years, he was probably had his eye on Ole Miss on one eye and the other eye, on where he could go next. But I think he's really starting to kind of settle in, and he's really enjoying his stay here in Oxford.
You know who he reminds me of? He's the George Hamilton of football coaches. He's tanned, good-looking guy. He's well-dressed. I mean, when you're up there watching him on the stage, and I was in the back there when he was standing next to Commissioner Sankey, he's just funny. I mean, and the guy's mind, you're right. When you grow up with a dad like Monty Kiffin and growing and going to campuses everywhere and living there, that's who you are. And he's listen, if you haven't been to Oxford, then you need to go. That's a cool place. And I know people love to rip on Mississippi, but I spend a lot of time down in the Delta. Hell, I got a dog named Delta. I mean, and because of that, I love Mississippi. I love going down there, and I'm an Auburn grad. Y'all know that. I've been orange and blue all the way, but that's a place, and they've got money. They're about to wrap up a $2 billion fundraising campaign for academics and athletics, and $500 million of that for athletics. So, you want to say what you want about Mississippi. That's more money than most schools in the country have raised. So top that, America.
Rob and Yancey, I got to cut out in a minute, but I love Yancey's comments on this. Lane was also quick on his feet during the presser, sort of late in it. And I just shake my head with reporters from Birmingham, Rob. But the reporter said, "I'm from Birmingham. I normally cover Alabama, but I just wanted Lane to get your thoughts on Coach Harsin and how he's really been struggling lately." And like Lane is going to give, bulletin board material to Auburn. And I mean, come on, AL.com. We are dumber for hearing your question, reporter.
One of those crimson shaded questions, brother.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, like Carson needs any more help with his enemies in negative recruiting. We can kill ourselves at Auburn. We don't need help.
All I was missing was a comment from the replay booth at the office in Birmingham.
Hello, Birmingham.
In fairness to Lane, he is right that the referees missed the call against Auburn on that kickoff.
Oh, that was grievous. There were some, bad calls and bad decisions by the coach there. But hey, everybody makes mistakes. I mean, Lane made some bad calls and bad decisions against Auburn as well. At Auburn, that might have been his worst coach game of his career. So I mean, everybody has bad days at the office.
He totally passed on that question. I thought it was good discipline.
Yeah, he look. You're not going to outsmart him. You're not going to outwit him, especially a reporter. He's very savvy, like you said. He's quick on his feet. That the thing with Auburn, they messed up by not hiring him the first time, right? I thought LSU did the same thing. Both those schools really had a golden opportunity that could have won at a very high level with Lane, and why they didn't hire him, I don't know.
Gents, y'all have a great week. Good luck to you at the media days, Rob.
Hey, Doug, we'll be in touch today. Thanks so much, and I'll tell that guy with the ring, the Alabama guy, you said hello.
Sure did. Do that.
All right.
Great talking to you, buddy.
All right.
See you, man.
Take care.
Yancey, and Jimmy, I got to ask this one to Jimmy. And I think that there's a lot of truth. I totally agree with that. Lane Kiffin loves all the talk being mentioned with him and Nick Saban. And people love to say they know what the real story is. Do you really? Nick Saban, as much as people want to talk about his persona, guys, he probably goes to mass a lot of times in the mornings and celebrate, for communion. And it's just interesting what these coaches are really like versus what we think we know. I don't know Nick Saban. I don't know him at all. I've never met him. I've been around him a few times, but there, people like that. And Lane Kiffin has a persona about him. They know the game and they know how to read people. Jimmy, wouldn't you agree?
Well, yeah. I think the truth of the matter is that all we know about these people and the only perception we can draw is what we see when they're in front of a TV camera, either on the sidelines during a game or at a media setting like SEC Media Days. And it just seems like Kiffin is comfortable once that camera light comes on. He just is in his element for whatever reason. He's comfortable in that setting, but he just is. And the first thing I noticed when he walked to the podium was that he wasn't wearing a tie. And that draws reaction. That makes him different from everybody else. And he wasn't 2 or 3 minutes into his address when he talked about that very subject, and he said, yeah, Commissioner Sankey had said to me in the past, I wish I didn't have to wear a tie. Well, now since I haven't, maybe you don't have to wear one going forward, maybe next year, Don't be afraid to leave your comfort zone or take a step outside the box, And I thought that was really interesting. And then near the end of his address, or I can't remember if he was responding to a question, but it was near the end when he said, yeah, well, for all intents and purposes, this is professional sports now at the college level. And I'm guessing that Sankey would have probably wished that he didn't describe it in that manner, but he addressed NIL in a very a different way, I think, than most of the coaches would have. But I will say this in my mind, that Saban's respect for him completely went from whatever nobody knew to probably a 10 in that game 2 years ago in Oxford, because Ole Miss's defense had Alabama befuddled all day long. They just had absolutely no way to stop them. But the counter though was that Ole Miss obviously couldn't stop them, and they ended up winning the game. The score was very misleading. The game was much closer than the final score indicated. But we all know after the game, at the post-game handshake, that Saban will say something briefly to the opposing coach, and then that's it. Well, that post-game handshake with Kiffin in Oxford 2 years ago, that lasted a full minute, and it was heartfelt. And I think Saban, told him, just a tremendous job he's done, and probably how he's proud of how he's developed as a coach, because it was a magnificent offensive game plan that Ole Miss put together 2 years ago. And because of that Alabama staff, I tell you what, they put an unbelievable show on in preparation defensively to what Ole Miss brought last year. And it was because Saban knew that he was dealing with just a tremendous offensive coach.
Yeah, and I got a question, Yancey. This is from one of our listeners, and he's sitting there saying, Yancey, and this is from Arlo Guthrie in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Thank you, Arlo. Riding on the city of New Orleans. Yancey must have been in Red Rocks for the Avett Brothers concert. Is that true?
No,
Oh, wait,
no,
Mr. Porter.
with Abbott Brothers, we saw string cheese incident with Phil Lesh and Billy Strings and leftover salmon and Yonder Mountain String Band. It was unbelievable, I will say.
Sounds like the kitchen at the Cherry Farm Hunting Club on a Monday. In the refrigerator. Damn,
That's
nation.
what my kids
MJ,
said.
help me, please. It's the big one,
Food.
Elizabeth.
Are you going to a food concert or are you going to a music concert?
Holy cow,
No,
leftovers. Somebody get the microwave. Holy
It's
cow.
all string. It's all kind of bluegrass string band music.
I know,
Something
look.
I love dearly.
Awesome.
Hey, man.
Hey, yes.
I can't beat it.
Yeah.
Yes, I got a question for you from over here in the other Magnolia State, if you don't mind. When you get 10 wins in a season at Ole Miss, historically, it's a double-edged sword, and you've got to follow that up with all. And you mentioned about Lane's ability to have talent be enhanced. So my question to you is, what is he going to do to fill that void of all that lost talent that Ole Miss lost over the season, to try and, if not reach that summit again, to approach that summit to keep the Ole Miss Rebel fans happy?
Well, here's going to be the one word that's going to surprise you: defense. They've got a really, really out defensive line and one of the best secondaries in the nation. They're going to play really, really good defense this year. That's what they're going to hang their hat on until they figure out A, who's going to be their quarterback, B, will all of these explosive wide receivers get healthy and be in a groove by the season when it starts, because so many miss so much spring practice and some are missing summer drills with a couple foot injuries. So they got to get that quarterback. They've got to get that wide receiver, 2, 3 explosive guys really going. So they're going to play defense and run the ball at the beginning of the season. And that's something that probably Lane, who knows? I don't know. I didn't follow him close enough at his prior stops to know if he really hung his hat on that. But defense and running the ball.
Yancey, let me ask y'all this. We're going to take
yesterday.
We got to take a
Yeah,
quick.
they got a great offensive line, great running backs, and a great defense.
Yancey, if you could hold over the top of the hour with us for a few more minutes, we got to take a break for hour number 2 of Sidelines. And guys, I'm gonna reboot, and so I will be letting everybody off the connection here from Communications Central at SEC Media Days, and I'll be bringing you back on here in about 2 minutes after these commercials. A lot more football discussion to go. Let me tell you one thing: only place you could be where this would be better location will be down at Orange Beach or Grayton Beach out there, where Western Inlet ekes into the Gulf, drinking some cold road sodas with the tailgate of your truck down, and just watching the scenery walk by and reading magazines about college football. But we'll do our best to replicate that scene after this break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, you got to love that podcast version of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Hey, it's just that's the way it is with copyright laws and all like that. That is still one of the great spaghetti westerns of all time.
Yeah.
I remember
Eli Wallach played a great part in that.
Well, the funny thing is, there was a great line when I worked in television, and it was about someone's chances of winning the SEC were fading faster than a sunset in a cheap spaghetti western. But hey, guys, Yancey, Jimmy, Frank, I know we talk about food a lot on here. Let me say something. Yancey, I got to get you some Miss Rubin's rubs. Black Magic, White Magic, Seafood Magic, Creole Magic.
I still use it all.
Yeah, that stuff is incredible. And one thing, the Miss Rubin's rubs, you can get them at Publix, Piggly Wiggly. If they don't have them there, tell the manager of the grocery store you'll be back shopping there once they do. They need to go to missrubins.com, go to Walmart, Amazon. You can get those there. But listen, these rubs are good on everything. I got to tell you, Friday over at the farm, MJ cooked a 15-pound brisket. Took 15 hours with the Black Magic. He put a little White Magic on there for the flavor that it gives you, a little bit of garlic. But I mean to tell you, the bark on that thing was spectacular. People were stopping on the highway to come by and get their picture taken with it, like when you shoot a 14-point buck. It was it's that good. But we're proud to be associated, proud to have them as a sponsor, as we are with Gateway Tire and Service Centers. We go the distance for our customers in the communities where we do business. Always support Gateway Tire and Service Centers, and also the Boy Scouts of America. You can't say enough good things about the Boy Scouts. Man up. Teach a young man about life, about cooking, about gun safety, how to clean a gun, how to hunt, how to skin and, clean a deer and gut a deer and go fishing and camping. Basically, get dropped off for a couple of weeks out in the middle of nowhere. And when Scoutmaster, if he's a man, he wants you to be a man, he's going to say, boys, you hungry? Yeah, we'll figure it out. Because mommy and daddy aren't here. And also, reforest Mississippi. Whether it's on your private land, your hunting land, your residence, your business, or wherever town or community you live in, go out and plant trees in the median. But reforest Mississippi, it's a beautiful thing to do. Yancey, I appreciate you hanging over here for hour number 2. Jimmy Hodge, Frank Duffy, Rob Brown here with you, live from SEC Media Days at the Omni in downtown Atlanta. And I'm going to tell you one thing, man. Just imagine if you had all the characters that were at the greatest concerts, like Woodstock, like, Live Aid or whatever at Wembley Stadium over in London, but they were all there in coat and ties, except for Lane Kiffin. And I like that. And by the way, Jimmy, your man, Kirk Bowles, when I was sitting next to him and Olin Buchanan, when he asked a question of Lane Kiffin, he said, first off, I want to say I support the no tie rule, because those guys from Texas, they don't wear ties. And most of the people there were pretty late, but we saw our friend Brad Logan there, lots of people, and also got a chance to talk yesterday with Takeo Spikes, and he is excited to be the newest member of the SEC TV crew, and he said, I'm looking forward because Doug Dean, thank you, opened those doors for us. He goes, I love Doug Dean. He's my man. And but Takeo wants to come back on Sidelines with us, and met all kind of people. And by the way, got to get this in. Got a chance to meet for the first time Bill Hancock, College Football Playoff Committee. He's going to be on the show with us Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Central, guys. So get your questions ready. Get pen and paper or pencil and paper handy. So, Yancey.
Well, hey, Rob, as far as attire, Olin better be wearing Kevlar when he gets up to ask Saban a question this afternoon.
Hey.
Because I don't know about you, but I can see a Coke bottle bouncing off that.
Oh, yeah. Listen, Yancey and Jimmy and Frank, Kirk Bowles, what a night. He and Olin are just good guys. And they're great journalists. They are typing nonstop. They look like a courtroom reporter in there, and they're getting the stories. But we got a chance to meet a lot of the people that you see on TV and people from all over. And we're going to have some really, really neat guests on the show going forward. But Yancey, getting back to Ole Miss a few more minutes before you have to go. I just think Lane Kiffin has embraced that culture that they have at Ole Miss. And I think the Ole Miss people have embraced him Here it is in year 3, and the obviously the floor is probably 8 wins for Ole Miss. I think that's a sign, and I don't think that the 10 wins they had last year were flash in the pan. I think that's going to be more if he keeps recruiting, whether it's out of high school or the portal. That's going to be the standard going forward for Ole Miss. Agree, disagree, or do I owe you a sack full of crystals?
Well, I think that the schedule, I'll take it 1 year at a time. The schedule sets up perfectly for Ole Miss to try to find that identity on offense, again, with new receivers, along with the new quarterback and the new offensive coordinator, which really doesn't get mentioned much. But Lane he's going back to his old offense that he ran at FAU in Southern Cali. It's not going to be Levy's offense that we saw the last 2 years. So there's going to be a lot of changes that occur on the offensive side of the ball. But again, they've got a great defense and they got a great offensive line, and arguably on paper are the best group of running backs in the SEC. So they're going to be able to run the ball, and they're going to be able to stop the run. They're going to be able to stop the pass. So that's going to give them time to really get that identity in the passing game as they go through, let's be honest, a very weak opening 6 games of the season. Now, the back half of the schedule is brutal, but, I think the schedule sets up nicely to allow them to form an identity this year. I think 8 to 10 is a fair kind of, 8's kind of the floor, and 10 is probably the ceiling. I mean, I don't know if he were to do something crazy against Alabama, who knows, but look, we all know that Freeze really circled that Alabama game every year to the dismay of especially the state fans. But, that was the game for that staff. And make no bones about it, that's going to be the game for Lane Kiffin's staff as long as he's here as well.
Well, and one other question. Last year before the season, we talked a lot about if Ole Miss could improve their defense by about 40%, 9 or 10 games are coming. And front 7 depth, we all know in the SEC that will make or break you. Let's talk about last year, and you were really good and you were really thorough in chronicling the development of Ole Miss's football team. 14 of the 25 guys they signed were defensive players, yet all of them went through spring practice. I mean, you can't put a value on the importance of having a transfer, a junior college player go through spring practice, because if they show up just for August practice, we all know in junior college, the discipline, the training table, it's just not there, okay? Guy shows up looking like Fat Albert, man. You're like, whoa, what are we going to do with this guy? Hey. It's hard to turn a guy around in 4 weeks of practice. I mean, Terrence Cody at Alabama was ginormous. I mean, he was probably pushing 400, okay? But the guy could jump. He blocked that field goal in 2009 and crushed 2 people below him. I'm not sure if they ever walked again. But anyway, you think about that, man. That was scary. But I look at what the Rebels did. And again, always give credit where it's due. Jimmy was so good at pointing out about Chance Campbell, linebacker transferring in. I think he was a pre-med major from Maryland. And by the way, I don't think Chance Campbell got $6 million or $8 million bucks in NIL money because Johns Hopkins or the Mayo Clinic or Baptist Hospital thinks he's going to be a great doctor one day. And that's kind of what I think NIL is. But I digress. But Yancey, before we go to Frank or Jimmy for the next deal, tell us what you know about Ole Miss's defensive tackles, because Tim Bowens was a great guy. He's like that guy Jefferson on Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Hell, I didn't know he went to Ole Miss. I thought he just flew in on weekends. But they got anybody like Tim Bowens?
Well, Tim Bowens didn't get eligible until about 90 minutes before the Auburn game that year.
I know a friend of mine played with him.
He just flew in.
One of my friends played with Tim Bowens, and he said, "Tim, what about class?" He goes, "Huh?" He goes, Tim was Jefferson. Hey, by the way, I sent out something last year to people as a meme, as a spoof for some little tomfoolery. It was a video of Jefferson's highlights from Fast Times at Ridgemont High after they tore up his Trans Am, and he was like going, he was flying over the line of scrimmage in the air. And I said, this guy is rated as a 5-star, but 24/7 says he may be the first 6.5. And they're both, who is this guy? I said, are you that dumb? Yancey, carry on. Chicken on a stick time.
The defensive tackle is by far their deepest position on the team, and that's kind of odd to say.
It is.
We all know that defensive tackles are so hard to get, and usually the Alabamas and LSU's and Ohio State have them all, but Clemson as well. But they're literally 12 deep at defensive tackle there, and I don't think I've ever seen that at Ole Miss. The key, though, really is there are a lot of really good football players, right? But you got to have difference makers on each level, and that's what separates the pack. And that's going to be the key for Lane is can some guys take that jump from very, very solid to elite. And he's got to have one on each level. I think really Gordon, he's a defensive tackle from Meridian, Mississippi.
Gordon Ford?
First year. Yeah, Gordon Ford, lying down. Gordon, he would get blown over by the wind right now. He's lost so much weight.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Now, the old Gordon, he might could have played some defensive tackle.
That's right.
But no, keep an eye on 88. I think he's got a chance to make the next jump. Piggies has made that move from Auburn to Ole Miss, but how much experience he has there. Can he become special this year? That's one of those candidates. He's got it in him, but will he do it? I don't know. But allow you can keep clicking. Their defensive line and their secondary, I think, are right where you need it to win championships. The question mark remains at linebacker. You just mentioned that guy, Chance Campbell. He's off to the NFL now. So, they've got some good candidates. They got some good portal guys. But two of those portal guys, they had to sit out this spring with injuries. So that put them behind there developing the linebacker. Then they had two more projected starters that had to sit out this spring with various injuries. So the linebacker bug really hit them at the linebacker and wide receiver positions this spring. So there wasn't a lot of continuity, figuring things out for next fall as far as those two positions. So if there's the one position I'm really looking at on the defensive side of the ball, it's definitely going to be linebacker.
Yeah, Frank? Yeah. Now when you think about looking at this lineup of Ole Miss talent, Jimmy and Frank, that's what Lane Kiffin. That's what's scary is that he has that kind of. If J.J. Pegues, who's a great athlete, comes forward and emerges as a star at defensive tackle, that's a guy that's about 6'2", 300 pounds, who is a freak athlete. He can run the Wildcat. You can do a lot of things with him. But Jimmy, do you see in Ole Miss what you saw last year defensively, where they can be even better than they were last year? They weren't perfect, but they were pretty darn good.
Well, they weren't very good in the first 6 games, and then the second half of the season, they improved a lot.
But I was comparing them to 2020.
Yeah, it's just hard
true,
to say.
What he's saying is true. They got absolutely butchered up against Arkansas, and it looked like more of the same. And then after that game, it was like the light came on for that defense. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about there was some, philosophical differences between the DC and the head coach there at Ole Miss, and who really started calling the shots after that Arkansas game. I believe it was 52-50. There was definitely a lot of turmoil on the defensive side of the ball, as Jimmy's alluding to, up until after that Arkansas game.
Yeah, and so with that thought in mind, Ole Miss has obviously brought in a lot of very talented players from just a skill and athleticism standpoint. But in this day of the transfer portal and so many players switching schools, and then when one program
like Ole Miss brings in quite a few guys to bolster their defense in different spots, it often takes a few games just to learn the new system. I mean, Ole Miss lost both their coordinators, so they're going to be adjusting to that. And I'm not talking about transfer portal players adjusting to the coaching staff. We're talking about the coaching staff adjusting to each other. Kiffin's going to be working with Charlie Weiss Jr., and Partridge is the new defensive coordinator, I believe. And so until they actually work together on the field, you don't know exactly how long that chemistry is going to take to develop. So, like I said, in this modern time of college football, the only constant is really change, and a big factor in so many of these programs that are bringing in a lot of new players is just how quickly they can get those transfers up to speed as far as adjusting to the new systems and schemes that are being implemented, and also learning to play with each other, because you're going to be playing with a mixture of players that have already been with the program, along with players that are like you, that are going to be coming from different programs, and you're just trying to mesh all of that together and make the unit as effective as possible, as quickly as possible. And as I said, how quickly you're able to do that is going to determine, in many cases, how successful you're going to be.
Yeah, I think, Jimmy, one good thing about it is that Chris Partridge, there's only two coaches that Lane brought to Ole Miss that are still with him coming into year 4. On the offensive side of the ball, you got Derek Nick, that's made it through, I believe, 4 coaching staffs and has been at Ole Miss now 15 years.
Yeah, I was going to say
they might need to build a statue to him as well.
Exactly.
And Chris Partridge on the defensive side of the ball, that originally came in, as the safety / co-defensive coordinator. He's been with Lane through the wars. Lane knows his tendencies, and it's going to be a much more aggressive defensive style this year, bringing a lot more pressure, being a lot more multiple than they were the prior years. But, the players are going to have to get adapted. That spring practice, getting those 15 practices in along with the spring game, I think really did a lot for that defense. But it's going to be much more aggressive. They're going to cause a lot more turnovers, get a lot more sacks, and they're going to give up a few more big plays, right? I mean, that's just part of the game when you decide to become aggressive. So it's going to be a different style of defense. I think it's going to be more exciting. Again, they're going to make a lot more big plays, and they're going to give up more big plays, and that's just the way it's going to be this season.
Yeah. Frank, we got time for one more question with Yancey before he's got to get to bowling practice. Go ahead.
Yancey, as an LSU fan, I can attest I have heard more hottie toddies over the last 10 months than I think I've heard in my entire life. I have to tell you.
You're about sick of it, aren't you?
Well, I don't mind it if it comes with a nice meal sitting over there in the Grove during a football game. But, yeah, I've heard my share. I got a lot of friends from New Orleans, and as you know, there are a lot of Ole Miss fans in New Orleans. But I got to ask you, the success that Ole Miss has had on the football field with the 10 wins, what they've done in baseball in the last couple of months, I have to ask you, from a traditional and history side of things, Ole Miss has such great tradition going back to the late 50s and early 60s in football. Also the Archie Hu years of the late 60s, early 70s. Put that in context, that proud tradition of Ole Miss and the success that they've had in this last 12 months. Put that in perspective for the Ole Miss fans and how they're feeling right now, the pride that's basically exuding coming from Oxford and all around the South from Ole Miss fans.
Well, Frank, I got to tell you a funny story first. I grew up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, from Vicksburg. Grew up in Hattiesburg. My dad started a law firm there right before first grade. So we moved over there to Hattiesburg. And as you know, there's a lot of LSU fans in Hattiesburg, being less than 90 miles over there to the great town of New Orleans. So my buddy, one of the biggest LSU fans ever born, I'm not going to mention his name, but he started a huge brewing company in Little Rock named Rebel Kettle. And so he made up all these shirts, with Rebel Kettle and hats, and he sent me some. And I told him, I was like, man, everybody is telling me, thank you. They love all this Ole Miss gear you sent me. And I mean, that just burned. He's like, what do you mean?
I bet.
You named your company after Ole Miss, the Rebels. Rebel
Oh, I
Kettle.
love it.
And he spent over $1 million rebranding his company to a
my
different
God.
name because that burned him up so much that people thought his business was after Ole Miss.
Oh, that's funny.
That's
hey,
beautiful.
Yancey.
As the baseball, though, look, I mean, baseball is just, and we've gone over this with Rob and over the past year or two since we've been doing this podcast / radio with him. It's just so big up here. I mean, it really is. The state of Mississippi, it's just different. And it's huge in Louisiana. It's huge in Alabama. But there's just something about baseball that's different in Mississippi. So everybody identifies with it, right? So it's the biggest thing that's happened at Ole Miss in my lifetime, my short 50 years on this earth. It's definitely there's a lot of pride. There's a lot of respect for Bianco. There's a lot of relief, right, for Bianco because he's done such an outstanding job, but he just hasn't been able to get over the hump. And
all those years too.
All those years, and I think there's those two factors with the popularity of Bianco, especially in the Oxford community. Look, two of his sons have coached my son in baseball for the last 8 years. So, they've got an all-spring of coaches, the Biancos do, that coach ball here and travel ball. And now Michael's the high school coach there at Kirk Academy, about 30 miles down the road from Oxford. And by the way, Michael Bianco, keep your ears out for that. He's going to be the next great baseball coach come out of that family. He is going to be special. Best baseball coach that I've ever seen in any travel league baseball team. But it was huge. A lot of pride, a lot of relief again for Bianco and all that turmoil. And again, there's been some big moments in Ole Miss, especially in my 50 years, but nothing touches that.
Well, I have to tell you one quick anecdote that I think you'll appreciate. Right about the time you were born, I was a 10-year-old boy, and I was in Tulane Stadium when Archie Manning played his first game for the New Orleans Saints and beat the fearsome foursome L.A. Rams, went over from the 1-yard line on 4th and 1 with a couple of seconds left in the other end zone. I was in the south end zone. He scored in the north end zone. And when I tell you the conundrum that New Orleans LSU fans had as they were leaving Tulane Stadium at cheering for Archie Who as he went over to beat the Rams, and watching lifelong LSU fans buying red and blue I can still see those giant buttons that had Archie's Army on them with the Rebel flag. To this day, I can still see that and remember it is one of the best memories, the iconic memories I have from my childhood, is watching all these LSU fans putting on red and blue Archie's Army buttons. It was the craziest thing.
Yeah, and speaking of that, there's been a lot of talk about his grandson, right? Arch Manning.
Yep.
He's going to Texas. Texas is joining the SEC. Visions of Arch Manning, because look, Arch is different than Peyton and Eli. He's got the size. He's the 6'4", guy that can really sling it. But Arch has got Archie's speed.
Yeah.
That's what makes him so special, is that he's not just a classic drop back passer. He can really run around like Archie did. Now, is he going to be as mobile and elusive as Archie? I don't know. We'll see. But he's definitely not an Eli or Peyton in that retrospect, where they're running about a 5'2" 40. So, that's going to be interesting. And Arch comes into Vaught Hemingway as a Longhorn. and jumping over the line of scrimmage into the touchdown. I'm just visualizing like
Wow.
LSU fans were with Archie, kind of in a pickle there. What do we do here? But they're playing he's playing for our team. We'll go for him. I don't know what the response is going to be for Archie. It's going to be mind-boggling, I think.
Well, I think Ronnie Esty and Mike Anderson are still chasing Archie Manning somewhere around Tiger Stadium right now as we speak.
He was the modern day version of Michael Vick, and people just don't remember that because it was so far back, and because he played for such a bad team and he was on the run every single snap. But I mean, sometimes he would go back 30 yards scrambling just to make a pass. It was
those of us that are 50 and 60-year-olds that are Saints fans, Archie Manning will always be our boyhood hero. There's no doubt.
Yeah,
well, Archie Manning will always be Mr. Ole Miss. Without, and that's no disrespect to any other Manning, but Archie Manning is Ole Miss.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. Yancey, look, man, this has been great having you on. Love doing this with you, and I'll talk to you later today. Again, with more thoughts about what we're hearing and seeing, people we're talking with here at SEC Media Days. But we sure do appreciate it. And folks, tune into the Rebel Yell Hotline, 6 p.m. every Monday Central, all over Mississippi and in Memphis on Sports 56, WHBQ 98.5, the new FM as well. So this is great stuff. Let's take a quick commercial break. And again, want to say thanks to our great sponsors like American Cast Iron Pipe Company and Spiral Weld Pipe, who are sponsoring us and allowing us to be here at SEC Media Days in Atlanta. And also the great folks with Miss Rubin's Rubs. And I'm going to tell you, the White Magic, the Black Magic, the Seafood Magic, and the Creole Magic. They're good on any and everything. Put them on there. Try it one time, and you'll be hooked. You can get them at Piggly Wiggly, Publix. They don't have them. Go to the website or at Walmart or Amazon. It's MISRUBINS, MissRubins.com. Since 1935, the old penny profit grocery market there in Montgomery. Proud story of a Greek immigrant family that came here to America, lived the American dream, and now you can still have it. Anything you like to eat will be better with Miss Rubin's Rub all over it. And want to say thanks to our sponsors, all of them. Great folks like Chad House, ECS House Industries. If you see a farm, there's something out there growing, there's equipment being used, I'll bet, from ECS House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas. And if you like catfish, all these catfish farms, they have the aerators, for aquaculture. They make those right there in the 100,000 square foot warehouse in Cherry Valley, Arkansas. Chad House, proud to be associated with him and the great people there as well. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back for the final segment with Harold Grader talking college football after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown back here with you for the final segment on this Tuesday morning, July 19th, 2022. I tell you one thing, man, this is one of my favorite people, Harold Grader. He's out there working it, man. I mean, he is everywhere at Media Days, talking to every coach here. He knows them all with the Liberty Bowl, executive VP of the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and been doing that a long time. And one of the things I love about college football is the celebrations of college football. And the bowls, a huge part of that, and the Liberty Bowl, what they do there. It's not just about the football game. It's about what they do for so many great causes in Memphis. And Frank Duffy's with us right now. We're all here in Atlanta. Jimmy Hodge and Sidelines. We're all about three things: history, tradition, and heroes. Okay. Thank you, John Hearn and Robert Durham, for that one. But that's really what this show is all about. And Harold, you and I got to talk a lot yesterday in the main room there, media days. Of course, we had three speakers. We had Brian Kelly, new coach at LSU, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, Eli Drinkwitz there at Missouri. Lots of football talk. What was the takeaway that you left the room with last night about day one of media days and the future of college football, the bowls and everything going forward?
Well, Rob, first of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah, and, when you sit there and listen and you take it all in, and obviously today with Coach Saban, the elder statesman of not just the SEC, but really college football and maybe more or less maybe the conscience of college football. But looking back at day one yesterday, each school obviously has their own story. LSU with Brian Kelly had a chance to meet Brian for the first time a month or so ago down at the SEC spring meetings. That's a team that we have our eye on at the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and in my conversations with Brian, we're a potential bowl destination for them as they kind of hit the reset button there in Baton Rouge with Brian Kelly. And you've seen Nick Saban go through there and win a national championship, and Brian Kelly with high credibility and a great record of success. Not going to say they're going to eventually win the national championship, but you never know. But they certainly have their program in the hands of a coach who has a proven record. Then Ole Miss with Lane, it's always entertaining to see Lane. You never know. Not that he's shooting from the hip, but he always has some interesting things. You never know quite what to expect from him, but he was his relative low-key self. But, one thing as we have gone through this past year with NIL, and you sit back and you listen to Lane, you've got to separate the Lane that speaks in person in a public forum versus the Lane on Twitter. Because I really think those are two separate people, two separate identities. When he's on social media, I think Lane's, he's trying to appeal not just to his fan base, but potential recruits. And he does that. But, also as I'm speaking about the Coach Saban being, the conscience of college football. But when you sit back and you listen about the things that Lane says about NIL and some of these other topics, he too is, speaking from a perspective and has some comments and thoughts about what's the betterment of the game, where we really are. I think yesterday, more or less, he said, they made cheating illegal, quote unquote, or words to that effect when it came to the money that's out there for recruits, and now that it's legal. But every coach says you got to have some guide rails to this. Coach Saban talked about that at length this morning, and Lane mentioned those things. So that was Ole Miss from yesterday. Eli Drinkwitz, Mizzou, a team that had interest in coming to our game last year. They were certainly on our list. Will be again this year. Eli's a great personality, and you got in one of the great questions that elicited one of the better answers of the day from him yesterday. Because you asked him about the fandom in the state of Missouri, specifically in St. Louis for the Cardinals, and how do you wind that or connect that with Mizzou athletics, Mizzou football specifically, and he picked right up on that. Rob, I thought he gave a great answer, which was basically, the state of Missouri, all of the professional franchises, Royals, Chiefs, Rams, back in the day, the Cardinals, the Blues, they all have won championships, and their fan base across from one end of the state to the other is they're used to winning and used to having championships. And he says we need to have that same mindset and those goals for us at Mizzou. And thought it was a good question and a great answer. So it was a good first day. And again, so we got day 2 this morning rolling. No pun intended with Coach Saban and his 3 players with him today. Just left the main media room with Will Anderson, Jordan Battle, Bryce Young, and it's always special and unique when it's Alabama Day at the SEC Media Day.
Well, I especially like that guy with the ring head, and then there's a new one with the Rammer Jammer, Yeller Hammer box. Looked like a sledgehammer walking around there. But hey, they're what make college football so much fun. You know, Jimmy used to go there dressed in a Tide box with a roll of toilet paper, no, but I mean, Harold, the great thing about you got to know, Harold was a TV sports anchor, Action News 5 in Memphis, 15 years before you got into the Liberty Bowl. Before that, Jimmy and Frank and everybody listening, I used to go to the Memphis basketball games, and we would go with these friends of ours that had season tickets, and we had tickets. And you would sit there. Harold was stringing the cable and doing everything for the voice of the Memphis Tigers. Great Caesar's ghost, Jack Eaton. I can't believe that call. The only guy who was a better homer, and that's what I loved about Jack Eaton, was Johnny Mose of the Boston Celtics. I can't believe that guy. He rammed his elbow into Larry Bird's eye, or Larry Bird, or something. It would be the opposite of whatever happened. But Harold, you worked your way up. I mean, you are the Chester R. Puller equivalent in the media. Remember, he's the only enlisted Marine ever to rise to the rank of commandant. That's why in basic training, when they turn out the lights at night and they say, "Good night, Chesty, wherever you are," Chester R. Puller, a legend in the Marine Corps. But you're completely from scratch, came up in the media. So you've done it all, and now you do the relations part. That is everything in the bowl games, but it's the celebration of college football, and I respect the hell out of you for it, Harold. That's why I like you. You got one of your kids at Alabama now, and that's just the way it is down here. We grow up a fan of one deal, we got a kid going to another school, but damn, this is a lot of fun. And as soon as we get off the air, I'm going to be back out there on the floor in the main room, and I see Clark Lee up there right now. But Jimmy, jump into this conversation with Harold Grader.
Yeah, Harold, I was just curious about what is your routine? Do you have a set routine, or do you have to just go with the flow depending on the order of coaches that speak that day, or do you change from year to year, on how you're going to approach the SEC Media Days? How does that work, or do you just over time develop a kind of a consistent routine that's been successful for you?
Yeah, I have a basic game plan of how I try to do this and get around to see everybody. And Rob touched on it. People ask, well, why do you go? Why do you go to the SEC spring meetings? Why do you go to the media days? I was in Dallas last week for the Big 12. Why do you go to media days? And Rob touched on it. It's about relationships with us. Certainly to have a minute with a head coach and some time with the media relations people. I know last week in Dallas, a couple of the teams had their football ops people with the head coach, and those are all folks that we deal with come bowl time. The football ops guy, the head coach, and the media relations people. So some schools have new people in those positions. Some have folks returning, and you just want to say hello and jumpstart the year with those familiar faces. But each venue has its own opportunities and challenges. When we were at the Winfrey, it was on 2 floors. You go up and down the escalator to get from one place to the other where everybody was, and the access was a little more, a little easier there. here at the Omni and the College Football Hall of Fame, things are spread out a little bit more. So here over so yesterday and today, I figured it out. First of all, you got to figure out where you're going because this is a massive place. But you pick your opportunities. You look at the schedule and when is a coach going to be in the main media room, and that's really where I was catching coaches yesterday, coming off the main stage, and you say a quick hello and good luck, and we'll see you during the season. And while the coaches are having their press conferences, the media relations people from the schools are off to the side. So you can get them off to the side and have a good visit. So again, those are the main things. And again, it's about the relationships. And there are certain schools, go into a year that we have our eye on as potential bowl teams for us at the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. And right now, certainly the neighborhood schools, as I call them, they're always on our list. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Arkansas. But, we just had Mississippi State. Those other three schools, their aspirations are pretty high, and understandably. And then, then you talk to an LSU, like I've had now two conversations with Brian Kelly about the upcoming season. And Eli Drinkwitz at Mizzou, saw him in Destin, saw him yesterday. And when he walked away from me yesterday, he said, "Hey, don't forget about us." And, and they come see us. So, we'll get to those places during the regular season. So again, that's kind of the strategy and the why we do what we do and how we do it. But, going back to your question, Jimmy, each place has its nuances of where you pick your spots and when you can get that time with the coach and the people you came here to see. But it's all a part of the job.
Yeah. Frank, jump in here with us. And I got to tell you, Harold, you're right. I watch you. Every one of those coaches, you are typically the first person to shake hands and talk to them. And that ain't luck. That's you work your ass off, and that's a credit to you. Frank, jump in here.
Well, Harold, I'd like to say, first of all, thank you so much to the Liberty Bowl. I want to congratulate you on what you have done to basically celebrate American values when you put on your bowl game. I remember as being a young man, I was a ball boy for Tulane, and even way back when Tulane came up for the 1970 Liberty Bowl, it struck me the theme of your bowl and how much it really has a patriotic theme throughout. And it's something that you guys have kept through the years. And as Rob and Jimmy and I and everybody that comes on the show, I think we all have a true patriot's heart. And we love this country and everything that it stands for. And I wanted to personally thank you for the job of keeping that theme of American patriotism at the forefront of your bowl game.
Ditto.
I appreciate that. So, well, thank you guys. We appreciate that. And we do our best to live that every day. You go back to the founding of the bowl way back in 1959. Bud Dudley in Philadelphia, former Notre Dame athlete, former aviator in World War II. And when he came back from the war, he was a sports entrepreneur and athletics director there in Philly. And, his goal was to establish the first bowl game in the Northeast. And he wanted to found it on those principles of liberty, freedom, patriotism, hence the Liberty Bowl there in Philadelphia. And now this is year 64 for the bowl game. And, we've maintained that, and it's not just pablum or something we say in passing. We try to live it every day, and we try to honor our country's history, tradition, and our military, the folks who defend our country each and every day, whether it's in the homeland or abroad. And last year was a great example of that, and we will continue this. We recognized and honored Gold Star families. Those are families who have lost family members while serving our country in the military. And the cherry on top of all of that last year was our opportunity to honor Woody Williams, who then was, at age 98, was the last living Congressional Medal of Honor winner from World War II. We had him in Memphis. He was the Grand Marshal of our Beale Street Parade. Then on game day, we had him out on the field and got a big introduction, got some ESPN airtime out of that. Just a small way for us to honor him and his service. And, a lot of you may have seen in the news here in the last couple of weeks, Mr. Williams passed away here 2 or 3 weeks ago. And just the response was incredible for him, folks recognizing him and what he did for our country. He laid in state there at the state capitol in West Virginia, his home state, and then he laid in state at the United States Capitol in D.C. And that didn't happen every day. But when you do what he did, obviously he earned it. He earned the Congressional Medal of Honor, and he fought at Iwo Jima, and it was amazing. And again, that was just, we were so honored and privileged for him to be able to make the trip to Memphis back in December, for us to take a few minutes to be able to honor and recognize him. And again, that's what we're about. And those actions, personify that, and is an example of how we can bring that out to the public. And we will continue our partnership with Gold Star families, and we'll be inviting Gold Star families from around the country to come back come to Memphis this year for the bowl game on December 28th. And again, it's just a small way to say thank you for the sacrifice that those families and their family member made for each and every one of us here in the great United States of America. So, liberty, it's not just a name, it's not just a word, it's something we believe in, and something we try to live out and meet those standards each and every day.
Harold, I tell you one thing, and Frank, thank you for that question. We had a lot of incredible guests in the 3 years we've been on the air, really almost a year of doing it 6 days a week. But I had never had a guest that when they're talking gave me chills. But just hearing you talk about that, because, Woody Williams, I don't know how many people have ever met a Congressional Medal of Honor winner. But the last surviving Congressional Medal of Honor winner from World War II at the Liberty Bowl passed away a couple of weeks ago. But, that is the legacy of the Liberty Bowl. I've been to 37 Liberty Bowls in my lifetime, and I'm looking forward to going to another 40 or 50 more. But Frank and Jimmy and everybody listening, there's a lot of pressure in a lot of places around this country to change things. Ain't gonna happen at the Liberty Bowl. Not with Harold Grader involved. It's not going to happen. So support that Liberty Bowl. And I think Stat Tiger, our good friend, said now the last 23 Liberty Bowls, your attendance is like over 58,000 average per game. I mean, listen, Harold, that ain't luck. That's not an accident. That is a plan that y'all follow.
Say, when it comes to attracting folks to our city, but we have a great brand. And that's one of the gratifying things for me when you go around the country and you're introduced as being with the AutoZone Liberty Bowl in Memphis. Everybody seemingly has a story about our bowl game, whether they attended the game when they were a kid with their family, or they just watched it on television all this year. One of the things we went back to maybe 10 years ago or so, when I first came to the bowl back in 1998, we were painting the end zones in the colors and the logos of the teams. And then I want to say maybe it was for our 50th anniversary, which now would have been 14 years ago. We went back to the original paint job that Bud Dudley did back when he moved the game to Memphis in '65. And that was to do the red, white, and blue, looks like the American flag pattern, sort of, with the blue background and the red and white stripes. Those are our end zones. And folks now know, now that we've reintroduced that, I think it was back at our 50th anniversary, when you see that field, we want you to know, and a lot of people know, they recognize that field. That's the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. It's got the American flag in the end zones. That's us. That's our identity. That's what we want folks to know. So, we have a great brand. Fans are very loyal. We don't have the beaches and all that stuff like our friends at the Florida Bowls. But we have a great destination, and we have a great history and tradition, and folks respond to that, and they want to come to Memphis and be a part of it. So whether you're a fan in Memphis or you're from around the country traveling with your team, or you're just a college football fan, and we have folks that make the hardcore fans. We have folks every year that make a tour. Hey, we're going to hit 3 or 4 different bowl games. We want to make the AutoZone Liberty Bowl one of those. So we're blessed. We work hard at it again, because when you don't have those advantages of weather or the beach or whatever it may be, we're like Avis. We work harder, or we try to work harder. And again, we thank those who support us, whether it's through corporate sponsorships or just the fan buying a ticket. We say thank you, thank you, thank you, and we hope you'll be back with us this year. And we're anticipating another exciting matchup between the SEC and the Big 12.
Yeah, and one thing too, the city of Memphis, and I know I'm biased, I'm from there, but just incredible people, friendly people, and the civic pride. What's going on in Memphis right now? Over $20 billion of new construction for developments. $20 billion, folks. But just to any business, corporation, small or large, reach out to Harold Grader and the Liberty Bowl. Buy season tickets. Go. If you don't go, give them to some kids or people maybe that can't afford the tickets. Get them there. Introduce them to college football, because I mean, Harold, you and I have been to so many Liberty Bowls, but I mean, I'll never forget the 1976. I got a field pass through a connection through my father, Alabama, UCLA. And I remember going when it was so cold so many times with my dad's friend, Al Brown. He used to be, head guy out there at the Liberty Bowl.
Stadium manager.
We'd go in his office and warm up for 15 minutes. And then it was time to go back to reality, and it was cold. But that's what makes the Liberty Bowl so cool. You never know what the weather's going to be, but I'm going to tell you what. Go to the Liberty Bowl. Go to the bowl. Support the bowls, because it's college football. Jimmy,
I remember road tripping up in 1985 when LSU played Baylor, and I'm telling you what, we had a blast up there. If you can't have fun on Beale Street, you can't have fun.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And Jimmy, you're a college football aficionado, Jimmy Hodge. You love the game, and I know, Harold, you've got a conference call in a minute, so if you got to go, you got to go. But Jimmy, jump back in here before Harold has to go.
Yeah, well, the Liberty Bowls had such a unique history because Alabama played in the first one, I believe, in Philadelphia against Penn State. And he personally got involved at the introductory press conference in Philadelphia, just getting people to, come out and convince them to attend the game. And that really started a very unique relationship that Coach Bryant had with the state of Pennsylvania, because a number of years later, they had developed a big fan following in a suburb of Philadelphia. And if I wouldn't have mentioned it, I could tell you the name of the suburb right now. But one year, I think it was maybe in the early 70s, they convinced him to come up and speak. And I don't know if it's Bridgewater. The more I think about it, I'm not going to be able to.
May have been Radnor or Marple Newtown.
No, it's not that. But anyway, they asked him to come up to speak, and he, for like 45 minutes, and he spoke for like 2.5 hours or something. And they have, to this very day, a Crimson Tide club in that suburb. And 2 or 3 times after Alabama national championships, they have purchased a billboard outside of Tuscaloosa, congratulations, Alabama Crimson Tide, whatever year national champions, from that Alabama Crimson Tide club there. and it started from that first Liberty Bowl game. And then when they moved it down south, you just had so many great games there, so many great players, coaches, and games. So the Liberty Bowl has really, over the last half century, really cemented itself in that traditional annual bowl arena. And you can always count on every year the game's going to be organized. All the events are well put together, and the game, way more times than not, is very close, very exciting, very competitive.
Yeah, it is. Jimmy, that's the cool story. And you know one thing, Harold, it's a unique fact that only an idiot savant, as my dad calls me, like me, would know. In 1965, when they moved the game to Memphis, Auburn and Ole Miss played. It's the only time the MVP of the Liberty Bowl came from the losing side. It was a native of Hartford, Alabama, a guy that I know, Tom Bryan, the fullback for Auburn, 147 yards rushing, and Auburn was beaten 13-7 in that game. But Harold, I know you got to go, and I'm gonna see you in a minute. But to everybody out there listening, support the Liberty Bowl. It stands for everything that's right about college football, and what they do off the field in the community for people is everything. The Gold Star families, we can never do enough to support them. Anyone who's got someone in their family that's military, which is most everybody, like my brother-in-law, Kurt Ham, 26 years in the United States Marine Corps. Never once do they ask for anything, but they will help you in a heartbeat. And thank you, Harold Grader.
Yep. Well, thank you, Rob. Guys, thank you for the time. Enjoy the rest of media days, and we look forward to the season. And again, this year's AutoZone Liberty Bowl. It's December 28th, 4:30, and football season is here, and couldn't be happier.
Hey,
thanks for the time.
Ditto. See you in a few minutes. All right, Jimmy, that is
take care.
You bet. You too, Jimmy. That's a cool story that you. I mean, that blows my mind. And what we're gonna do, we got to sign off here in just a minute. But great show. We got another one lined up tomorrow. Looking forward to Wednesday. And today, remember, Nick Saban, Clark Lee of Vanderbilt. Then you're going to have lunch. Mississippi State coach Mike Leach will be out there, and South Carolina coach Shane Beamer. And one of the funniest things I heard yesterday, some reporter in the main media room asked Lane Kiffin yesterday, said, about in the state of Mississippi, we have two big personalities, Lane Kiffin and Deion Sanders. And Lane Kiffin looked at this guy and he finished, and Lane Kiffin said, I think we have three. Don't forget about my man Mike Leach. And Audrey was like, you talking about the guy that likes pirates? I said, oh, yeah. So, Jimmy, I'll be talking to you. Give me a few minutes after the show. We're heading back downstairs. We got to leave from here over here where the media row is to get all the information we can. But great show. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Central. And remember, go out and help somebody with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give. Most often see the face of Christ in the least among us. And we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. You just heard about the Liberty Bowl from our good friend Harold Grader. Support the Liberty Bowl, support college football, and find excuses to win. Have a great day, everybody. We're out of here.